I am the big tank.
On the battlefield of life, nothing's harder than a tank. Yeah, have you ever met a man, hearts full of love, bigger than a tank?
Big tank.
He served in a few wars, he's a veteran that stands for a cause. For the best interviews and news, just keep it glued to the
Tank. I
tank.
am the tank. Big
Big
tank.
Tank Talk.
Tank.
Big Tank Talk.
Tank.
Big Tank Talk.
Hey friends, Big Tank again with another episode of Big Tank Talk. Today I have the pleasure of introducing to you Dixie Trix. Dixie is a rap artist who has a good singing voice as well. Um, she is a good friend, and I'm happy to introduce you guys to her. Dixie, welcome to Big Tank Talk.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. I've had a lot of fun doing this and getting to meet and getting to know people. I love music artists. I love watching you perform, and I've seen you perform in videos. I'm hoping to eventually see you in person, but you know, one thing at a time.
Yeah, hopefully soon. Hopefully before too long.
So I know Dixie Trix isn't your given name, and I'm not asking for that. I'm just wondering how you chose Dixie Trix.
It was a play off of Alabama. I'm born and raised in North Alabama here, known as the heart of the Dixie. And so it was just kind of a play on that for my name. And then tricks rhymed. So there wasn't really any hard thought put into it as a lot of people thinks it was,
It
but
it's definitely a memorable name, and it rolls easy off the tongue. So I think you made a good choice with that.
yeah.
Uh, Let me just jump right into this, and let me ask you, what first got you into music?
My grandpa first got me into music. He was one of those people that played every instrument under the sun. And from an early age, he would, strum on his guitar, play his piano, and I would sing along with him. And he always kind of encouraged me to do talent shows and stage plays and things like that. So he was the biggest influence on me as far as doing music.
Oh, that's awesome. Is your grandpa still around?
No, unfortunately, he is not with us anymore. He had a very long battle with colon cancer. Um, and so he's been gone from us for about 10 years now.
I'm sure he'd be proud to see what you're doing and the strides you're making in the music business now. Um, Let me ask you, if you could, what is your creative process?
Um, my creative process differs every once in a while. Sometimes, you have to sit down and just push things out, which is not my favorite thing to do. I most of the time just see things going on around me or get a feeling, and then I try to put those down into words. I do a lot of mental health things in my music and stuff like that. So it's usually just me seeing what's going on in the world around me or whatever I'm feeling that day. And then I just use the notepad as kind of the therapist, right? And so that's a lot of my creative process is just trying to be as real and raw as I can and just do the best I can to get the thoughts from my mind onto the paper so that I can share it with other people.
That's awesome. And I got to say, for a rapper, that's probably a really good way to go about it. Um, Also, now I am a fan of your music, so I'd like to. I know that you recently you dropped an album or an EP. Would you
Yes.
like to give a plug for that real quick?
I did drop an album on Friday the 13th of October. It is called The Introduction, mainly because it's my first album that I've dropped, and so that's why I named it that. But you can find it on all major streaming platforms: Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Deezer, and probably 27 other streaming platforms that I've never heard of before. But yeah, it's available everywhere.
That's good to know. And I've heard some of it. It's really good stuff. So I recommend my friends, especially if you're into rap music, definitely go give Dixie Trix a listen. Um, I would say go to Spotify. I know Spotify is one of the key streaming platforms for determining how well an artist is going to do.
Yes, Spotify is my go-to for personal and professional use. So, you know, not sponsored or anything, but use Spotify.
Right. So, who inspires you now? I know your grandfather is key to getting you into music, but who or what is your inspiration that pushes you now?
My biggest inspiration that I have now would be my kids, hands down. I kind of think back on being a child, and sometimes we don't let our kids chase their dreams as much as maybe we should have, because we want them to have more quote unquote realistic goals in life. Um, but I have made a point to instill in my children that no matter how crazy somebody else thinks their dreams are, that they should always do what makes them happy. So that's the main reason why I do what I do now, is because I want them to know that no matter what anybody else thinks of you, it's okay for you to chase your dreams, and it's okay for you to do things that make you happy. So that would definitely be my biggest influence now, is my girls.
That's awesome, man. And I would say you're setting a good example by chasing your dreams and let them know it's okay that they can do that. Um, you have toured. Have you toured any?
I haven't toured yet. I have done some shows. I am going on tour beginning in January. I will be participating in the Alienated tour that is hosted by Gray Matter, who is another wonderful artist. If you haven't checked him out, y'all should check him out as well. There's a group of us that will be going. We're doing 20 dates. We have some that have already been scheduled, some that are still in the works. But we'll be everywhere from Alabama, Tennessee. We're even going to go up to Chicago. And as soon as the rest of those dates get set in stone, we will be releasing that tour schedule.
That's awesome. I'm sure you're looking forward to it. But let me ask, what do you anticipate being the most difficult part of being on tour?
The most difficult part of being on tour is, well, one, you don't get a lot of sleep when you're on tour, and people don't realize that. But usually, when we do these shows, by the time it's our turn, we've been up for almost 24 hours, just because there's a lot that goes into it. But the biggest thing for me is just being away from home. Um, if I could take the kids with me everywhere I went, and the husband everywhere I went, that would make me a happy camper, but that's not always realistic. So that's always the hardest part for me, is just knowing that I'm miles and miles away. When you're used to being with your kids every day and being the one that tucks them in and stuff like that. And you're already in the bar come bedtime, so you can't really make those phone calls. That's always been the hardest part for me.
I understand that. I'm sure your family supports you chasing your dreams, though, and that has to at least soften that blow a little bit.
Oh, yes. My husband and my kids are my biggest supporters. And my husband is definitely my biggest fan. There's a couple times, if it wasn't for them, I don't know if I would have been able to keep pushing, but they do a really good job of reminding me that they see what I'm doing and that they're proud of me. And it makes the world of difference when you have a support system like that.
Absolutely, and I could definitely see that. Um, so if you could choose throughout the entire music industry, someone that you could open for as you're ascending in popularity and celebrity, for want of a better word, who would you choose to open for?
Um, I've always been a really, really big fan of Eminem. Eminem, Slim Shady, Marshall Mathers. He was one of the first rappers that I really listened to. Before then, I was into a lot of like R&B, a little bit of hip hop stuff like that. But he was I remember being a kid and seeing him, and we all thought the same thing. Well, who was this white guy, right? And unfortunately, we're in a place where there's kind of a line divided between who should be doing what. But I specifically remember watching him and saying, well, if he can do that, I can do that. And so if there was one person that I could open for, it would definitely be him because he was one of the biggest influences on what I do now.
Now, typically, another question that I ask artists is who you would like to collaborate with. Would it be fair to say you'd also love to collaborate with Eminem?
I would love to, but that's not my first pick. Um, and today's music of who's been making headlines, if I could collaborate with anyone, it would be Jelly Roll. So if you come across this, or if Bunny happens to see this interview, we haven't met yet, but I've been speaking it into existence that we will meet soon. But if I could collaborate with anyone, it would be Jelly Roll, mainly because we have a lot of the same mission. We speak a lot of, try to speak a lot of positivity into people. Um, we even share a song title. He did Save Me. I have a song called Save Me. And the thing he's got going on for him and the message that he's sending to people, I think aligns with what I'm doing more than anyone else. So he would definitely be my number one pick.
That's fantastic, and I'm a fan of Jelly Roll. I'd love to see that if you could ever arrange it, or if by chance they see this and he went and did, so his people went and did a little research and said, that Dixie Trix is good. I'd like to do something with her. I'm sure it would be an amazing thing for you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, as you from your start to where you're at now, and as you're continuing to progress, what's the best advice you've ever been given?
The best advice that I've ever been given was to trust everyone. And a lot of people say, well, you can't do that, but it has more to it. Trust everyone to be who they are. Trust a liar to be a liar. Trust a cheater to be a cheater. Trust people to be who they are. Trust good people to be good people. And so that I think is the best advice I've ever been given is just to trust everyone to be who they are as a person and to know that sometimes who other people are as people has nothing to do with who you are as a person.
That's a good point. I was kind of skeptical when you first said trust everyone until you explained it,
Yeah.
uh, which I'm sure wouldn't be a surprise to you knowing that. Um, Now I know you've got fans now. As you become more well known, that fan base will grow. What message would you give to your fans regarding Dixie Trix as a performer and as a person?
Um the biggest message that I like to give people is just to stay true to yourself. Um I tried a lot of different things. Um, and I've always found that when I'm just true to myself and who I am as a person, I always do better than when I try to fake it. So my biggest advice to anyone is always just to be true to yourself, and not worry so much about what everybody else thinks of you because while somebody might think you're weird, somebody else is going to relate with you. So, yeah, that's my biggest advice that I could give anybody is just make sure you stay true to yourself, and as long as you do that, things will happen for you.
That's actually good advice, and it's advice I've been given, particularly when I started this channel. because this is I had never done anything like this before I started it. But I can only be who I am, and I'm actually having a lot of fun with it. So it's really good advice, and I appreciate that you would advise that to your fans as well, to be
Yeah.
true to themselves. Um, Now, whether one of your own or something from somebody popular like Jelly Roll, for example, what is your favorite song to perform?
My favorite song to perform is actually the collaboration that me and Sweets on the Beats did. Um, it's Baddest, the B word, but,
We're adults here. You can say it's
okay,
bad as bitch.
yeah, it's called The Baddest Bitch. I never know where things are gonna stream at, so, but yeah, I love doing that one. I love performing that one. There's just such an energy behind that song, and it puts out such a great energy for the crowd when we perform it. It's my absolute favorite.
And friends, that song is available on all streaming platforms. I've heard it. It's fantastic. So I enjoy hearing you perform it as well.
Yeah.
If you could change anything about the music business, what would it be?
I would like to see a little bit more equal playing field when it comes to the men and the women in the industry. A lot of people don't realize it, but as a woman, especially doing something like rap, there's not always such a level playing field because it is a very male run industry. And so when you're not trying to be a pop singer or a country singer or something like that, um, it is kind of a line drawn in the sand, and us ladies, we kind of have to prove ourselves a little bit more. So if I could change anything, I would love to see that playing field just kind of equaled out a little bit more.
I will go ahead and sign on to that. I think talent is talent, and if people opportunities should be provided based on what you can do, not which bathroom you use.
Yeah.
For one of a better way to say that. Um, do you think the internet as a whole has been good for the music business, bad for the music business, or somewhere in
Um,
between?
it's kind of a double-edged sword, you know. Back in the day before the internet was so popular, we got our music by, actually buying the CDs or actually going to the shows. And so I think it's good in a way that it makes it more accessible to everyone because, it's all at your fingertips now. And it makes people a lot easier to be found by their fans, things like that. But I think it also took a little bit of that in-person disconnect away, or going and actually buying the album so that that money goes into the artist's pocket. So to me, the internet's just kind of a double-edged sword. It in a way connects us, and in a way it disconnects us. So if you have somebody that you're listening to that you actually enjoy, with the internet the way it is now, all I can tell you is push that play button as much as you can, because that's how we survive, is from people pushing that play button. Go to that concert, go to that local bar and meet the artist. And that, I think that's how we kind of bridge that gap, is we can have it at our fingertips, but nothing beats actually being there in person.
Oh, absolutely. And I've gone around the sun a few times in my years, and as good as music can be when you're listening to it on the internet, there is simply no substitute for hearing it live and seeing the person in the flesh and taking the opportunity when it's there to actually meet that person that's performing the song that really gets you going.
Yeah.
Um, just a couple more quick questions. Um, with regard to this process you're in or this journey you're on, what's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear, um I mean, a lot of people would say, you just fall flat on your face on the stage. I've already done that, doing stage plays. um, and stuff
Uh,
like that. But my biggest fear is that I wake up one day and I would have to say that's probably my biggest fear is that I'm going to look back one day and say I should have done that. You know what I mean?
yes. And my last question is, where do you see yourself down the road? Like say 5, 10 years down the road.
Well, hopefully in 5 years, I'm going to be doing another tour that I'm the headliner of. And 5 years down the road, though, I try to live every day for what it is. I try not to look too far into the future. I've tried that before. I've tried to set plans in stone. And in my experience, I've learned that that's the best way to set yourself up for disappointment. So I try to focus more on what I'm doing now, and just planning for what could happen. 5 years down the road, my kids are going to be almost grown. I'm going to have a lot more freedom. Hopefully, I'll still have the husband around, things like that. And I look at it that way. I hope that in 5 years down the road, my kids are still making all A's and B's. And I hope that, they're still cheerleading and they're still playing softball. I hope that I'm still able to do the things that I love to do, physically, mentally, all of that good stuff. Um, but I do try not to look into the future too much because you never know what's going to happen from day to day. I never thought that within the first year of me doing music, I would be going on tour. I thought it would take me several years. And so if I had kept with that mindset, I might not have signed on to this tour. I never thought that the first thing, besides a single I would drop would be an album. Everybody told me, we'll work on an EP or LP or whatever. No, nobody could have told me you're going to drop an album before you do any of that stuff. So I try not to look too much into the future because I don't want to shortchange myself for everything that I have coming for me.
And that makes sense. And I appreciate that answer. I appreciate you sitting down and answering my questions today. My friends, this has been Dixie Trix. If you feel like there's more questions I should ask, please, when you view this interview, say so in the comments, and by all means, please subscribe to BigTank Talk. Dixie, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. And oh, by the way, happy anniversary.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. He will have a steak dinner later. So he has
I'm
that to
sure he
look forward
appreciates. I
to.
appreciate him allowing you to take the time. Not that you need his permission, but
Yeah.
I appreciate you both for slicing some time out of your anniversary to uh, bless me with an interview,
Oh,
and I appreciate
anytime.
it.
Anytime.
All right, that's Big Tank Talk, folks. Um, share, subscribe, and don't forget Dixie Trix is available on all streaming platforms. Have a wonderful day.